Ah, the sound that any good recipe starts with. While we check out today's ingredients, let's pour a couple glasses of that Fox Run 2017 Cabernet Franc. Perfect, now let's get started. It's warming up here in the Finger Lakes, and we're cooking steak, shiitake mushrooms, and asparagus. First things first, let's get the oven set to 400 degrees, where we'll be cooking all the components of this quick recipe. Now let's get a skillet on medium heat, and a cast iron pan on just a little bit below medium heat. And let's give them about 30 seconds to heat up. Now we're going to put 2 tablespoons of sunflower oil in the skillet. Now let's grab those 1/2-inch stick-cut potatoes, drop them in the oil, and get them in one layer. They'll brown up a lot nicer that way. Let's season up the steak on that top side with just kosher salt and a few grinds of black pepper. Now for a tablespoon of oil on that hot cast iron skillet. Let's go ahead and grab the steak, put it seasoning side down on the pan, and we'll let that brown up nicely. Turn the heat on low, and we're ready to go. 5 minutes on the timer, and let's slide over and put a lid on those potatoes. Now let's quickly pick some fresh thyme leaves off those sprigs. Now slice through it one direction and then come back at it perpendicular for just 2 cuts. And scoop it up with your knife and into the sauce ingredients. Now for the asparagus, onto a baking sheet drizzled with a little bit of sunflower oil. Let's go ahead and put a little verjus on there as well. Perfect. And there goes the first 5 minutes on our timer. Let's slide over and flip as many of those fried potatoes as you can so they can brown evenly on all sides. That's the trick, browning them first on the skillet on the stovetop, and then tossing them in the oven while we season our steak and get everything else ready for the oven. My buddy Wyatt calls this tuxedo seasoning. It's just kosher salt and a little bit of black pepper. Sometimes that's all you need for a really good steak. Let's flip it over, get our sauce ingredients, and spread them out on that same skillet. The shallots, the garlic, and those shiitake mushrooms that we've sliced. Hit it with a little bit of that Cabernet Franc, and then into the oven above the potatoes. Let's set the timer for 5 minutes, and a little bit of that tuxedo seasoning for the asparagus, and into the oven. About 3 minutes in, pull out the cast iron pan with the steak and give the sauce ingredients a quick stir, and a little of that same tuxedo seasoning just over the top of the mushrooms, and then back in the oven. At the end of our second 5 minutes, let's reach in and grab everything out of the oven and just kind of line it up on the stovetop so we can get ready to season the potatoes in a nice sized bowl where we can toss them around a little bit. I'm taking them right out of that pan. Got to make sure everything is seasoned well. A little bit of salt over the top. That's all they need, no pepper. Toss them around, back onto the oven. Now slide the steak over to the asparagus pan while we work on the sauce. Now for a classic French sauce preparation at demi-glace, or reduced stock that's been thickened naturally. It'll add great body and texture to our sauce. Continue cooking it on high heat. Let's move over and chop a little parsley quickly that will be added over the top of the sauce so we can mix that in. And onto the edge of the knife blade and into the sauce. Now on to slicing up our steak. We're going to take that, put it on the cutting board using a long carving knife. We're going to make 1/8-inch slices all the way across the length of the steak. Perfect way to serve this. Now slide your knife under it and back onto the asparagus pan. Everything looks ready. Let's move on to the Play-Doh. Let's start by lining up those fried potatoes down the middle of each plate, and then head back over and split that steak into 2 portions, sort of fanning it out over the top of the potatoes. Grab the asparagus along either side of the steak, and then back to the saucepan, spoon that delicious shiitake mushroom sauce right over the top. And now for another refill on that Cabernet Franc. And that is how we make seared New York strip steak with shiitake mushroom glaze, fried potatoes, and fresh roasted asparagus.